Deepak Shukla here, founder at the Parliament Group. We're a multi-seven-figure marketing agency as well as doing other things. And today I want to talk about the challenge that you have when people either ghost you and or you need to follow up and people have forgotten who you are. So what do you do when you suspect that if someone says, come back to me in 3 months, 1 month, 2 weeks, and you think, they're probably going to just forget who I am by that point. What do you do in those cases? So I've got a really simple strategy, which might mean this video is less than 5 minutes long. But really simply, one of the key things that you need to understand when it comes to follow-up is that you only need to wait the allotted time if your follow-up is related to a sales conversation. But if you're just following up within the context of learning more about their business, having something to share with them, adding value, then the timeline that you can attach to follow-up actually changes. So rather than, for example, waiting 4 weeks to repitch them again, why not wait 2 weeks and then send them something interesting? You can, in fact, even schedule that message saying, hey, I know that we're due to speak in a couple of weeks from now, but just saw this and thought of you. Hey, Frank, I know that you mentioned that you were taking your kids to Disneyland. Just wanted to check. Saw this funny GIF about Disneyland, thought of you. Hey, George, I know that you mentioned that you're expanding into this region, saw this interesting news article about developments in this space, thought of you. So what you can do is ultimately keep yourself top of mind in the mind of the prospect. One of the interesting things about follow-up, one of the biggest points about follow-up that people don't really often think about is that you just need to remind people that you exist. And there's many, many different ways of reminding people that you exist. And the only rung on the ladder that most people tend to fall into is, are you ready to buy it? Are you ready to buy it? There's other things that you can do in advance and in lieu of that. So you talk about GIFs, you talk about humor, you talk about comedy, but what you actually want to do is build relationships, especially if you're in it for a lifetime. And that's where the context really, or telescoping out becomes important. Do you want to be the kind of person who builds relationships with everyone that you speak to and ultimately have that relationship carry forward with you? Or are you looking at a transactional sale? When it comes into relational buying, what you want to do on the initial discovery call is at a level of consciousness and experience will teach this to you, and or you'll need to, of course, go back over calls, keep a parallel list in your mind of interesting things that you could follow up with them about. That could be personal, it could be professional. And in that way, you're able to actually keep in touch with them in a much higher frequency level than you originally were given. So if someone says, cool, follow up with me in a month, you could send them a message a week later with something that's interesting and useful. You see how they respond, and then at least that means it's now 3 weeks until the follow-up. And then even a couple of days before you follow up, again, when you're due to, you could send them something different again. So you could do one personal, one professional, and then you could do the follow-up. And in that time, lots of things may have happened. They say, you know what, George, actually, I'm ready to talk about this right now. Actually, something else just came up and now that you're here, I'm thinking of it. I want to discuss it with you. So it opens up the world of opportunities. And there's many different ways, even where prospects don't reveal much. If you have their location, if you have any information that pertains to them, you can find something that's contextually relevant. And to take it one step further, why not build a ChatGPT bot that you can feed information about someone, just for example, their LinkedIn profile, and ask for several topics of conversation or ask for their company. But basically, you can build a bot to feed you interesting things that are topics of conversation based upon the prompt that you give it. Then you can just input the name, you have a bit of value, and then you can schedule more frequent follow-up. So if you engage in this strategy, you will actually increase your ability to make sales instead of just waiting until someone's ready. There are more things to say than you realize.